So I learned that dignity is the key to movement building. And so I decided to create a movement on the behalf of all these children, 200,000 who enter every year in soft foster care. So many with trash bags instead of luggage. So many with sibling sets who are separated one from the other. So many times where they leave foster care with nothing and they become the largest homeless population of every other population. So the organization Fostering Great Ideas is a movement that establishes the rights of children who want to be seen, valued, and heard.
Welcome to Civically Grown, where change makers share the roots of their leadership and the impact they're cultivating today. I'm your host, Dr. Shaniece Criss. David White holds a Master's of Business Administration and a Master of Social Work. After 12 years in corporate finance, he shifted his focus to supporting marginalized youth. A former Clemson University MBA adjunct professor, he brings his entrepreneurial spirit to social impact. He now leads Fostering Great Ideas, which he founded in 2011 to serve children in foster care. You can check out more about that on fgiforkids.org. Welcome, David. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Shaniece. It's a pleasure.
Thanks. So the first thing I always like to start off with is what song lyric or quote captures who you are as a leader and why?
Well, maybe it's what captured me as a youth. And that was by a fellow named Keith Green, who was a Christian artist, heavily influenced by him. He was all about sacrificing ourselves. And he had a song when it started with "Open your eyes, give yourself away, feel the need, see the need, and respond today." It was very powerful to me growing up that I knew I needed to be in service of others. So we'll go with that.
So even when you're young, you had a pull and a call towards service, and that song captured it. So let's talk about your leadership. Could you just give me just an overview of some of the things you did that was related to youth leadership, and then we'll get more detail.
Great. Well, I wasn't really a youth leader in the sense of I was in charge of the beta club or anything like that, or the chess club, but I was a youth stumbler. I was learning where I could show myself and express myself, and that often turned towards visionary thought. We'd call it visionary, but I was the one who said, what does God require? And I was the one who said, how then do we serve more? So it was those kind of questions. I was never the key person on the team. But within that, I was an Eagle Scout, but my dad sort of pushed me into all that. So I ended with hardly any knowledge of what all the knots were that was required to set up a pitch tent. But nonetheless, I could do a fire on my own. And I was the co-chair or the vice president of the largest club at my high school for both the faith community and for the community action community, two of the largest programs in the school. So definitely was a leader, but more as sort of a vice or deputy while I was laying groundwork for realizing that my strength really was in building out thought and vision and then bringing people towards it, which came later on in life.
So let's think about one of your experiences from youth leadership or how you were serving. What's a vivid memory you have from that time?
I think the most vivid for me was specifically, hey, David, you are a leader, just accept it. And I don't know if people are born a leader, but I was born with a skill set. And the skill set is something that draws people in, which is I can see how this thing can really grow. Let's do it. Movement building. And so within that, it was really quite fun, Shanice. I was on a youth trip. We were just in the bus and a new youth director was coming in. We were sort of a small fledgling little youth group in our Methodist church and maybe 20 people or so. And he came in the bus and his first question, we've never met him, was, who is David White? At that point, I realized I was special. I think everybody needs to know they're special, right? So when do we all realize that? Do we realize that? That is the key to whether I think we're going to become a leader or not. Frankly, I mean, I don't have any great gift. I just believe that I was told I was special. So he sat with me, he said, you're the one who's going to be building this youth group out because I've heard all about you as somebody who is a servant first. And I have been a servant. And the second most important thing in my time of building out who I was, just building it, just defining it and saying, this is me, was when I served about 14, 15 in another church's soup kitchen over the summer. Instead of simply serving the homeless guys, I ate with the homeless guys. It was defining for me in that if you not only serve to, but you actually meet with and you journey with, you walk with somebody who feels totally marginalized, you find you can grow immensely through that.
When you were talking about you were eating with people, is there a specific conversation or a specific instance that really stands out to you? Because a lot of people, they do take that distinction. I'm serving versus I'm also with the people.
A lot of people serve and then go to Chick-fil-A afterwards, right? So I would say we need to change that paradigm. In any youth group, we need to not make people feel guilty, but give them the opportunity to be responsive in a new way, to actually serve with. It all goes back to that Keith Green song that was so important to me growing open up, and give yourself away. See the need and respond today.
Mm.
That has been the impetus of my entire life, whether in a faith community frame or otherwise, it doesn't really matter. It's the very nature of above self. And once that is realized, and I did realize that early on in life, then once you start to exercise that ability, and I exercised that early on in life through my eating with versus simply serving to, and my you actually are special from my youth minister. Once I had those components, I could actually say, yes, I am special, as everyone is. And yes, I do have skills that can lead with the aspect of being a servant framed person.
Do you remember any of the conversations that you had with the people at the soup kitchen and how it impacted you?
Sidebar conversations because it was funny, Shanice. As I had them, I realized I can do this even after high school. They were like, "Hey, David, that guy from I lived in Buckhead in Atlanta, and Buckhead was known and is known as a place where wealth exudes. So, homeless guys know that too.
Yes.
So you go into a place like this, you're well dressed, and people are like, "Okay, where'd you come from?" It's just sort of this blunt conversation. So, hey, there's that guy who doesn't have to be here, basically. And so I kept on coming back. And so then when I went to college, I went to, again, a pretty esteemed place. I went to Vanderbilt in Nashville. I had the same experience. People sort of laughed. They're like, there's that guy who comes in and hangs out with us homeless guys. It's just this sort of funny nature we had. And in doing so, I had friends. They laughed at me. I laughed at them that we were all in this predicament together. Uh, and from that, I was like, I can play in any culture or any identity, any area that I choose. In doing that, I was able to really know fully that my leadership was not in one particular area. My leadership, my strength, my ability to create visionary thought and a movement building could be for any matter of things. I interested in I really wanted to be a United States senator. I worked in politics, for a little while. Worked on Capitol Hill. I could do this package of who I am wherever I went. That all came from my youth learning, my struggle to find who I am, as everyone
Mhm.
does, and my expressions.
What lessons that you take from that time period that you use now? You've had a really interesting career. You can talk about in the corporate finance and fostering great ideas. Like, what do you use now?
Well, I use a lot now that is that innovation framework, that belief that what I have to say actually can get things done, that what other people have to say can get things done. Together, we can get a ton done. I I believe that it not only started in my youth. I know this is framed around youth development, but I was really just building myself. My impression it was through what I saw as a lot of lack of dignity to individuals who felt marginalized, and I simply wanted to eat with them. And in doing so, I found that they were just as friendly to me as I am to them. Come from completely different environments, And then I started meeting them up on Saturday mornings in college. Same concept, homeless guys. After doing a fraternity thing Friday night, I would meet them Saturday morning. Hello, hello, hey David, hey guys, in this colloquial friend frame. And then I started to really build my skill set in college. First couple of years, just sort of traveling in college, not really knowing what to do, just sort of meaningless. And then I found a couple of things I grabbed onto, and I founded my first two organizations. They were both community college led, so they weren't big, but I was able to develop companies, this little companies, organizations, and a couple of associations I led. From all of that, I was really able to say, I got this. Now, in my 20s and early 30s, I simply tried to make enough money to make it. I didn't really care about all I learned. But if someone learns and they increase their value system, they blow up who they are, they just build who they are, then they can always come back to it when the timing's right. So the timing was right when in my mid 30s, and then I decided to go for it. I decided to build a movement to serve children in foster care in a way that we can all respond to them, their needs at every point of their time in this difficult thing we all call foster care. That's when it all started. The magic began, and it has been for 15 years with fostering great ideas.
We're going to get more into fostering great ideas, but before, I just want to ask you, was it hard to make that career shift? What was that like?
Yeah, so you make a career shift. I mean, when I tell people I was in corporate finance and I had a master's in business and I lived in New York City in Manhattan for 3 years, I did
Manhattan, you were
investment.
doing it.
I I was doing it. And I went to a premier college, Vanderbilt, and all these kind of things is no question that everything was working out. But that's just not enough. It just it's good. It's great. It's very stable. And I didn't make a fortune. I'm not one of those. I wasn't on Wall Street. I'm sorry. There's nothing really remarkable about my story, and perhaps not about anybody's story, except for how I see that I'm special. And it all goes back to that guy coming into the van on the retreat, Jim Moy, and saying, "Who's David White?" If everyone gets that same level of care, they'll excel. So I was doing fine, doing well, but it was boring. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed corporate work, but I was like, what's the purpose? I wasn't making anything remarkable for the world. I was making sure that our telecommunications company was beating out the other guy. So who
Mhm.
cares? And so I then had that midlife crisis at a very early age that I was going to go back to my core, eating with guys who were homeless, and define myself by a movement that I could build, knowing that I could build organizations
So
starting
now you're in Fostering Great Ideas. You lead Fostering Great Ideas. It's been how many years now? 15 years.
15 years. Yeah. Great.
So, what do you think about what are some of the challenges? What are some of the challenges that you've overcome with fostering great ideas? It doesn't have to be with fostering great ideas, just in career, like building those types of things.
You know, you had mentioned, you'd asked, I didn't really answer it very well about my movement away from this corporate. It wasn't hard for me, and for me and my wife, because I wasn't making a fortune. I was just doing well. I was a mid-level manager. I was doing well, sort of growing in that. I could have grown some more, but I was bored and I was fine. I could just move to something else. And I found a way because I had my prior values that led me to the next step. So no big deal. It can sound like a big deal going to change the world, but it's really not a big deal. So I got a master's in social work, and the challenge is I just don't see them that way. I, I've never had trauma in my life, so for those who have had trauma, that's a lot of challenge. So I'm not the best person to answer a question about challenges because I've been given what I've been given on a silver platter kind of thing, being told I'm special, right? I was born on April Fool's Day, so I'm definitely special, and I'm left-handed, so I knew I was special early on.
Left handed as
But
well.
everyone, you can't beat it. So I would
I am as
another day
well.
if I was If I was a female back during the witch hunt, I would have been burned at the stake, no question. But during the when April Fool's Day. But the point is, if you are supported, then whatever you do next, you can do it. And I guess I've had obstacles, but I'm so tenacious. I just move through them. They don't affect me in a way of drawing me down or breaking me apart because I know that I have people who want me to make it. And I've always had that in my life. And isn't that what every child needs? And if you get that, whatever you are faced with, it's really doable. It's my point of
So
view.
you said that you're just able to move through challenges, which is great. That's what we want people to do.
Yeah.
So when you have a challenge, do you have a process to move through challenges? What's your strategy to move through challenges?
Ego. so,
Ego. Okay, tell me more about this.
to move through challenges, you have to believe in your ability. And if you do, you have an ego. And an ego is not a bad thing. I would love for more people to have had the mom that I had or the dad who I had who believed I could do it. I think we limit ourselves in our challenges if we don't have that. It's not our fault. It's just that we need that one person. For anyone who is resilient, they say the number one reason for resiliency is that you had somebody, a person, and commonly an adult, who believed in you. That's been my entire life. And so I want that for everyone. And if you have that, you got to have some self motivation, but it certainly helps you build it. And then you can wallow here and there and you cannot be sure what you want to do. But if you have an ability to lift up another person, you'll probably find your way forward.
Okay, so let's talk about your work that you do now. How are you developing youth?
Yeah. Well, I'm only developing youth with a core team of some 20 employees and some 150 volunteers, yourself included, right? And
Yes.
so I'm only developing youth and young adults and children in foster care to where they are being told they're special through the goodwill of our donors, through the goodwill of our volunteers, and through the goodwill of our staff and board. That's it. I am but one person. And in being that one person, I am a chief executive officer. So that means that I develop vision, that I believe that every teenager in foster care can have a mentor, a relationship of a volunteer across the state, across multiple states, a relationship of a single person. Why not make it across the entire nation? That every teenager in foster care, an extremely disenfranchised, isolated group of individuals who, in mass, believe they are not seen. We have a platform for that and fostering great ideas for them to do just that as a volunteer, as a mentor, tutor. So, my only thing now is to keep this platform up and alive and towards the next step of children to build out the community's response. That is it. And how I got there, of the 4 things or so that I've put together at organizations, every one of them was about bringing community, bringing people of disparate, situations together. Each one of them. When I was in college, I created a talk show on political issues. It was similar to, if you remember, CNN's Crossfire of old.
I
And
remember that.
it was in fact, one of my anchors in the college, he then worked for CNN afterwards. So I gave him a first right to do that. But I wanted to have it to where people of differing views could not argue and bicker like so much politics now, but could learn and inform and learn from one another. So I developed that out of nothing. And I've done that with several other things. Um, and now Fostering Great Ideas is platform for people of varied interest, children of varied trauma, but of varied experiences, but all wanting to belong, and volunteers all wanting to connect. And I bring it all together to where it is the platform for a responsive approach to community based foster care, where children are seen, valued, and heard at every point of their journey through care, with some 10 programs that operate, all great ideas that meet their needs every time. It's pretty
How,
cool.
how do you make sure you have the voice of the children, young adults, youth that are in foster care? How do you make sure that their voices are represented?
Well, great question. Because I am actually, even I mentioned I am actually not very good at listening when I'm growing something really quickly. And a lot of founders are told that they stink at listening, and I am one of the same. So the irony is, I listen extremely well to people who are marginalized. The guys who are homeless, who I ate with, great. I listen to extremely well to foster children, great. But when I'm driving and building something, I'm not a great listener. I'm just driving and building. I'm the entrepreneur, innovator, movement forward person. So, how do you build an organization, or how do you build a sense that we are listening to the client, to the customer? Well, it requires more than myself. It requires people to be blunt with me and to tell me, hey, David, you need to listen better. Because when I'm driving something, I may not be. So, the beauty of it, Shanice, is that we hire people who have lived in foster care, or who have experienced it from a foster parent or an adoptive parent or a parent, a birth parent standpoint. And in doing so, we have multiple voices, people who all have seen this firsthand, the customer. And in doing that, giving them all a place is makes it the most rich environment you can possibly have for building a movement, which is improved care for all the children who live in the state system called foster care. It's really quite neat, but I'm a terrible listener, so it's not because of me, but I built the design just for that.
One thing I did like is this concept of community based foster care. Because many times when people think about foster care, they think about who's the foster care parent. But really, the parent also needs a lot of support, the foster care parent and the biological parent. Everybody actually that's involved with foster care needs a lot of support. My
Yeah,
husband and I, we were foster care parents. We fostered one child, and it gave me a glimpse into a world that it was just eye opening. I'll just put it like that. And so now
yeah,
I really appreciate having the chance to mentor young ladies in foster care. And even with that, you see the challenges. It's not a straight line. It's not perfect. There's, like what you said, trauma. When people have trauma, there's so much that can put barriers to relationships, but just continuously reaching out, saying that I'm here. You have someone who's going to reach out and ask about you, even though
yeah,
you may not be used to that.
yeah. Well said. You're
So,
special. You're important. Someone's reaching out to you, asking
yes.
about you. It's everything.
So, what I want to ask, do you have any advice for people who are trying to build movements?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, definitely. So growing up in Atlanta, the civil rights movement was part and parcel of everything you learn, and that's
Mhm.
a great part of Atlanta. Atlanta's known for that. Andy Young was in a lot of conversations, even at Georgia State University, where I got both my master's degrees. There's the Andrew Young School of Public Policy. So MLK Center. It's just regardless of who you are in Atlanta, you will get a sense of the civil rights movement. It's a beautiful thing. And in doing so, I not only learned the movement and was like, wow, this is incredible. All these individuals responding as one in such a beautiful way that I began to learn it. I began to study it. And I also had ongoing, very fortunately, always represented the idea of dignity before anything else. My eating with the homeless versus serving the homeless, that is a matter of dignity for a person who's homeless. I don't know where that came from, but I can say we all have it in ourselves. We all want to do good. We all want to be in a listening mode with a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity. I think we can lose that if we become jaded. But to have that, in essence, to dignify the other and then to have a conversation is really a part of being human. And if you absorb it, if that's nurtured in you, if you know you're special and others are special too, then you grasp onto the point that every movement is built with dignity as the primary unit of change. That's what I learned through my childhood of learning from others who were not dignified and my childhood of being in such a robust place as Atlanta, Georgia, where the civil rights movement built so strong and where many of its people still live, regardless of where I was in that city. It just embeds in everybody. Um, so I learned that's dignity is the key to movement building. And so I decided to create a movement on the behalf of all these children, 200,000 who enter every year in soft foster care. So many with trash bags instead of luggage. So many without relationships that matter while they're in foster care. So many with sibling sets who are separated one from the other. So they've lost their younger brother and they only see him when they see their parent. So many times where they leave foster care with nothing and they become the largest homeless population of every other population. So many that get human trafficked. The largest population of all traffic victims lived in foster care, some 32%. So much lack of dignity at every step. If you do not have somebody, if you are removed, if you are called foster kid, if you then have to live in this uncertain place, even if you have a great foster parent, the dignity you have lost in this experience is remarkable. And so the movement must be strong. As a result, I had no other thought than to say, I think I'll create a movement for that. Why not? So the organization Fostering Great Ideas is much more than an organization or a charity. It is a movement that establishes the rights of children who want to be seen, valued, and heard. And in doing that, it is much more than me at this point. And that's really cool.
I'm so glad that you established this movement because even in my case, I think about the young lady that I have the privilege of mentoring. She doesn't get to see any of her biological siblings anymore. They've been
Mm,
adopted
wow.
and she's not allowed to see them. And I
That's
just
tough.
think about the pain that that would
Mhm.
cause. And so people do need other people to support them. This is the question that I ask all the guests at the end. If your leadership style were a tree, plant, or flower, what would it be and why?
It'd definitely be a rose. My leadership style is opening up. And sort of somewhat oddly enough, I can be a hard exterior because I push things hard. So thorns, right? I require a lot of water, a lot of support. My mom, my dad, the people who've said you are special. If I didn't get all that, I may not have developed as a leader for the benefit of these children right now, right? Where it's very important. And then ultimately in the rose, it's fragile. I don't have thick skin. I am remarkably fragile. If I had been traumatized as a child, I would have struggled significantly. And I often think about those individuals in foster care who have the same a thin skin and traumatized significantly. And I would thought if I was in a group home, I would have been the kid who hit the damn door and broke it. I literally would have gone angry all in. I'm not an angry person, but I would have found that the control I had lost would have been so remarkable that I would have lost it. And so, in answering that question, it is a rose because it is delicate. It may look strong, secure. It is strong and secure. It's got a great cane, as a rose does, but it can only grow well and be beautiful, and people can enjoy it and enjoy what it offers and the smell and the look if it has so much assistance. And I am definitely that. I've received all that. So I'm a rose in my leadership style. People see it, people respond to it. It is strong, but it requires a lot.
When you first said roles, I was thinking about other aspects, but I like how you broke each piece down, and I
Uh,
really appreciate that. David, thank you so much for your time today, your insights, and being a movement builder and the service that you do for so many people. Thank you so much.
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Civically Grown. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay grounded and keep growing.